Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon.
Walaikum Salam. Good morning.
Oh, good morning in the
Bunyad.
Bunyad Sahab. Assalamu alaikum from Canada. Bunyad Sahab, thank you for
Assalam.
picking us
Thank
up.
you. Thank you.
Gee,
Thank you.
very good.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I am talking and giving this presentation from the platform of ACE Pakistan section, which is a section of the international ACE International. And if you guys are not familiar with what ACE International is all about, let me tell you, is one of the global organization which promote total cost management. Since 1956, it is based in Morgantown, and it has more than 7,492 members. It is largest organization serving cost management professionals, and it has members in 100 plus countries, more than 80 local sectors. Those who are joining in, I would request please mute your speakers. The ACE International has a vision that to be recognized authority in cost and schedule management. Yeah, anybody can hear me now? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the ACE Pakistan section is to be recognized authority in cost and schedule management for programs and projects all throughout Pakistan. Our mission is to provide technical tools and promote recommended practices and professional development to enable the successful careers of Pakistani professionals. The ACE International, along with ACE Pakistan section, which is a section of ACE, provide knowledge and skills in cost engineering, scheduling, estimating, project management, cost management, project controls, value engineering, claim and dispute. And they also provide certification in CCP, cost, certified cost professional, certified estimating professional, planning and scheduling professional, PSP, and all these exams are online and they can be attended from the luxury of your own home. The reason of this certification is to have a continuous professional development, because it is no more an option. It is a must. To compete in a global environment, every construction organization has to hold competitive edge over others in the market to survive. There should be training programs for competency development and upgrade the skills and knowledge from time to time. Training and professional development should be integral part of company policies, and a specific budget should be allocated for training. Also, skilled resources are, as you know, are very short. Hiring a local talent and send them for training is a must. Project managers, project controllers, estimators should possess with the required skills and knowledge in order to be competitive in this world. What I have seen and experienced in my career, that working abroad for last 35 years, I've seen that people from different countries are coming in and taking the jobs which are lucrative in terms of financial emoluments. However, I see the lack of Pakistani engineers who are competing at that level, especially in project management area. So my basic request to all of the people who are there to working on professional fields acquire knowledge and experience to enhance their skills and knowledge set. The people do ask, what is the benefit of a certification and why do I have to certify? Certification is the objective, measurable way to ensure that a professional has acquired the required knowledge and experience to practice in specialized fields like project management, cost management, etc. Certification and investment in professional development that requires time and effort to attain. What do certified professionals have to offer to the industry? Basically is a knowledge, experience, and confidence to their employers. When somebody is certified, they assured the hiring authorities that this gentleman possesses the knowledge, experience, and confidence. Now, knowledge is basically by going through certification process, a professional has attained knowledge beyond entry level. Experience basically met rigorous requirement for in the specialty and provide employers with a high level of confidence in specialty. ACE International provide a lot of literature, journals, manuals, and study guides for the various certification programs, skills and knowledge, cost engineering, CCP, ESP, and CBP. Now, I would have already introduced to you the ACE Pakistan section, its objective and mission and vision. We are the bunch of volunteer engineers who have experience and realize that we should disseminate our knowledge to our young engineers and professionals in the area of total cost management and project management. Now, come to the main topic, cost estimating, which is the subject of today's presentation. My name is Farrukh Siddiqui. I'm a PMP and CCP certified. I took my certification in 1995, PMP in 2004, and yeah, and yes. The learning objective of cost estimating is to understand how estimates are generated. Can you hold on? I see a lot of noise coming out in my ear, and those who have opened up their mics, please turn it off because the mics causing a lot of disturbance for yeah. Asan Gori, your mic is still on, and I'm trying to turn it off. Asan Gori's mic. Please remove those two mics. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, gentlemen, the learning objective, as I was telling you, is the what is the objective of generating an estimate, understands the classification of cost estimates, understand some of the common methodologies used in preparing cost estimates, relate estimate accuracy to the level of scope, information, and methodologies used in preparing cost estimate, and understand how to apply risk analysis to determine contingency in an estimate, and understand how to present and review estimates. The Before I go on estimate techniques and its methodologies to discuss, I want to refresh your memory about project. As you all know, what's a project? The project, by definition, from PMBOK, which is the Project Management Body of Knowledge, is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or service. Temporary means every project has a definite beginning and a definite end. Either it could be few months or could be many years. Unique means product or service different in some distinguishing way, even for repetitive work, creating a unique product or service. The Each project has a start and finish date. It has a time frame for completion. It has involved, there is a lot of involvement of several people on an ad hoc basis, because whenever we execute a project, we hire professionals of the specific skills and knowledge on project. So it's to develop a project team, and we cannot afford to have so many resources. We always look for resources which are required for handling the specific jobs, especially in cost, scheduling, contracting, and material purchasing. And all this project has a sequencing of activities and phases activities to execute. The application of the skills, knowledge, tools, and techniques is the call project management, to manage project activities to meet the project requirements. There are three project drivers. Whenever there is a project is conceived, the major concern to an owner or a business entity or a corporation is the cost. The major lookout is the cost and cost, not the schedule. There are projects which are generally cost driven, some are driven based on a schedule. But those projects which are schedule driven, in those projects, cost is the secondary element, and people look at it, the cost, basically. So the cost is ultimate goal to achieve in any project, because no matter what, if you go over budget, you make the project fail to achieve its objective. The other areas, reliability, quality, safety, is also essential on a project. And definitely the cost, and the cost, which is the budget, its accuracy is much more important in the initial phase, development phase of the project. Now, I want to show you a normal project life cycle and its deliverables at different stage and gate. When we are talking about conceptual estimates or conceptual budgetary estimates, we are looking at it at the initial phase of the project, where initiation, business case, and study, which is the conceptual phase of the project, where initiation generally focuses on framing of the business opportunity, and business case focuses on assessment of business feasibility and identification of a complete range of project mile alternatives. Uh, this is very important phase of the project, because everything is on paper. You can erase it, you can delete it. If you don't like it, you adjust it, because this is where your feasibility studies and economic viability of a project is been worked out. If economic viability of a project cannot be done, showed you the numbers, which is beyond the owner capacity to invest, or is beyond the investor's intention to invest on a project, that project is generally put it onto the shelf. So the estimates which are done at that stage of time is generally are conceptual in nature, and they do not have enough data or drawings available, and they based on historical and benchmark information. I can give you an example that in in project of Manifa, where I was working, was about $14 billion project, which 900,000 barrel per day extraction of crude oil from Arabian Gulf Sea. And when we were doing the conceptual planning and conceptual studies, we studied a lot of alternatives, because making rigs to extract oil from Arabian Gulf, it was very costly affair, and the time consuming efforts is a big timeline involved into this one. So alternatively, we decided to build islands by dredging the sand under sea and make island. This approach was cost efficient, and we were able to save close to $1.5 billion. So during the initial phase of the project, we do a lot of studies, and we continuously perform cost estimating in order to crunch the number, which is going to be refined gradually, but give you some level of understanding, so the management feels good about it, and they say, okay, proceed to the next stage or next phase of the project. And scope definition is very important in order to compute any estimate. So management allows, after you perform your conceptual estimate, at that stage is plus minus 40%. We will talk about the accuracy of estimate in a later slide. Then you go on a definite development of preliminary engineering and execution strategy, and you develop certain drawings. The companies generally allocate about 2 to 3% for preliminary engineering, which takes about 6 to 9 months. And then during that phase of the project, you come up with a more definitive estimate, because you have more clarity on the scope, and you have more items are described and defined during that phase of the project. So what happens is, once you reach and finalize your contracting strategy, you issue the tender documents, you evaluate bid, and you know what are the contractors are asking or pricing for your project before execution. Still you have a time, the management feels, go back and plug in those numbers back into the economic feasibility, and analyze and evaluate that is still, if we proceed with that investment, would be profitable to them or not. And then if the numbers crunch come out to be positive and looks beneficial, management allows and say, okay, we give you expenditure request estimate within the range of plus minus 10%. At that stage, the scope is frozen, and nothing moves and changes unless it goes as a change orders. So this is the brief about the life cycle of a project. And during this phase of the project, all the phases, you manage constantly and you control your cost, and you do not want to overrun your project cost, because this is more vital. If you go overrun, certain companies allow, otherwise they stop the project in between, because they do not have enough funds to support the execution of the project. This curve which I'm presenting to you is project life cycle cost influence curve. This cost influence curve basically tells you that in the initial stage, your cost is very high. And then as you gradually go and refine through preliminary engineering, somebody call it basic engineering or front end engineering, you come up with more refined scope definition, and then you start costing it based on the current market trends, and you know the pricing, and you get the quotation. So the price or your estimate go down, and when you reach to your stage of ordering the contractor for EPC phase of the project, that's where you see the number crunch goes down substantially to plus minus 10%. Uh, Now, the main topic, what is cost estimating? Cost estimating is a process used to predict uncertain future cost. A predictive process used to quantify cost and price, the resources required by the scope of an investment option, activity, or a project. So it's a predictive process. It's not a definitive process, but it's predictive because there is a probability that what you are estimating right now may not be hold true by the time you start executing the project. A cost estimate is a compilation of all the probable costs of the element of a project or effort included within agreed upon scope. As we say, is a productive process, so it must address risk and uncertainties. Once you come up with a number or a cost, the output of estimating are generally used for input for budgeting, cost or value analysis, decision making in business, asset and project planning, or for project cost and schedule control process. The goal of a cost estimating is to minimize the uncertainty of the estimate given the level and quality of scope definition. The basic estimating steps are: understand the scope of the activity, to quantify the resources required, apply cost to the resources, apply pricing adjustment, and organize the output in a structured way that supports decision making. The cost estimating process is generally applied during each phase of the project, of the asset, on the project life cycle, as the project scope is defined, modified, and refined. There are various types of estimates and its application. ACE International identifies 5 classes of estimates, and which are simply designate class 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Class 5 estimate is associated with the lowest level of project definition, or you can say project maturity. And class 1 estimate is associated with the highest level of project definition. ACE International developed recommended practices, which is 17R97 for cost estimate classification, to provide generic guidelines for the general principles of estimate classification that may be applied across a wide variety of industries. Other recommended practices are 18R97 and 19R97 for cost estimation in process industry. The primary characteristics used in this practice of to define the estimate class is the degree of project definition and is based upon percent complete of the project definition, roughly corresponding to project completion of engineering. As we said, degree of project definition and usage of the estimate, estimating methodology, estimating accuracy, and required effort to produce the estimates. The cost estimate classification matrix for process industry, which is similar to other industries, can be applied. I have applied on infrastructure project, the same concept made management understood that what is the level of accuracy of the estimate, what we are doing, and what efforts have been put in so far in order to execute, to come up with the estimate. So as you see, class 5, which is very high level of project, low level of project definition. At that stage, the definition is about 2%, 0 to 2% complete. Is a conceptual screening. You use different methodology, capacity factor, uh, unit and method, different analogy you can use it, and you see the expected accuracy range at that is lowest level is -20 to -50, +30 to +100, and you go on. Class 4 is 1% to 15%. The definition of scope, about 15% complete, and you use different methodology depending on what is available to you. The accuracy range, the low is -15 +20%, and so on. And when you go to class 1, the -3 to +3 or -10 to +15, which is the detailed unit cost with detailed takeoff. So at that stage, your engineering should be almost 65 to 100% complete. So you can have all the details, material takeoff, and you have all the quantities, you know exactly what you're going to install, and you know the total install cost for the items and the materials which you need to purchase. So generally the budgetary estimate is class 3 estimate, which ranges between -10 to +10, or you can have -10 +30%, which way you wanted to look at it. This is where the management give you the or authorized budget, and they ask you to control it and minimize as much as you can. So generally, when we go for estimating, for budgeting, we use the class 3 estimate. Now there are estimating methodologies commonly fall into two broad categories: conceptual and deterministic. As can be seen from the cost estimation classification, uh, the level of project definition increases, the estimating methodology tends to progress from conceptual method to deterministic methods. Conceptual methodology is basically is a efforts involved in data gathering and methods development before estimate preparation begins. Deterministic estimating is a method where require a high degree of precision in determination of quantities, pricing, and the completeness of scope definition. The conceptual estimating methodologies are typically used for class 5 and class 4 estimates. They are often referred to as order of magnitude estimates, and in reference to their typically wide range of estimate accuracy. The purpose of order of magnitude estimates are establishing an early screening estimate for proposed project or program, evaluating the general feasibility of a project, screening project alternatives such as different locations, technologies, and capacity, etc. Evaluating the cost impact of design alternatives, establishing a preliminary budget for control purposes during the design phase of a project. Gentlemen, are you comfortable the way I'm proceeding now? If anybody open up their mic and tell me yes or no, or message on the chat. The order of magnitude estimates basically are dependent on limited information at the time available subject to considerable variation. Their accuracy also depends on the amount and quality of information available to us. More commonly used methods are end product units, physical dimensions, capacity factor, various ratio or factor method, parametric modeling. The I now talk about end product use method. End product use method is when an estimator has enough historical data available from similar projects to relate the end product units, capacity units of a project to its construction cost. Example, the construction cost of a hotel and the number of guest rooms, the construction cost of a hospital and the number of patient beds, uh, cost of a parking garage and the number of available parking spaces. Similarly, the construction cost of a house and the number of bedrooms. So you can correlate if you have historical data available, the cost available of one house, and you want to build another house of a similar type and similar number of bedrooms, you can easily correlate the cost from one house to another. But it's not that simple relationship. There are many other factors which we're going to talk about. Now, I'm giving an example here on the screen. There are two hotels, Hotel 1 and Hotel 2. Your management desire to build a luxury hotel of 1,500 rooms in a resort. So the client needs an approximate cost estimate for the proposed hotel part of feasibility study. Now, you look for the information that in past few years, is there any hotel which has been built and what was the cost of that hotel? And when you search and you found out that there is a luxury hotel has been recently completed, it has 1,000 rooms and costs approximately $65 million. So you know you can easily calculate 1,000 room, 65 million divided by 1,000 room, $65,000 per room. Simply you multiply this information of the cost of 1,500 rooms hotel of comparable design, and it's $97,500,000. But this estimate may serve the feasibility study, but it has ignored several other factors that may impact cost. For example, it has ignored the economy of scale that may be generated from constructing a larger hotel and a cost of common facilities, lobby, restaurants, pool, which vary, changes directly with the increases in number of room. Similarly, if that hotel built in Dubai or somewhere else or not in the same country, you have to see what are the location factor, what are the timing it was built, what was the scope, and then you have to use cost indices. We will talk about cost indices in a few minutes. Now, another method is physical dimension method. In the physical dimension method, it's basically somewhat similar to end product units method. This method also depends upon historical data, information from comparable facilities. For instance, a building estimate may be based on square feet, square meter, or cubic volume of the building. Pipeline, roadways, or railroads may be based on a linear basis. Now, there are two pictures of a warehouse. One is already built, and the other one your management wants to build. They say, okay, we wanted to build another warehouse. Can you give me a price on this one? So considering the of 3,600 square meter with a height of 5.5 meter, This is the warehouse your management wants to know the price of it. When you look at it, a recently completed warehouse of 2,900 square meter with a height of 4.25 meter at a cost of 62,003 62,350 62,350,000 is there. So when you divide 62,000 62,350,000, am I saying right? Or 6,023,500 is divided by 2,900, you come up with a 215 square per square meter. So the new warehouse cost, simply multiplication of $215 per square meter with the 3,600 square meter, you came up with 774,000. But the new warehouse differs with the first warehouse which you have built. Is about the new one requires 5.5, the old one versus was 4.25. So just simple multiplication is not enough. You have to use the volume as a basis for estimation. And you know, when you go for volume, the 12,325 per cubic meter of the warehouse. And when you calculate, it comes out to be $50.58 per cubic meter. And then when you compute the volume of the new warehouse, it's about 19,800. And when you multiply, you came up with a new value of 1,001,064.7. So these are the two simple order of magnitude estimates I talked to you about. Now, there is another estimate which is commonly used in process industries, another two, the Lang equipment factor ratio and capacity factor method. In this method, the cost of a new facility is derived from the cost of a similar facility of a known capacity, but different capacity. And is a nonlinear relationship between the capacities. Uh, the ratio of cost between two similar facilities of a different capacity is equal. The ratio of the capacity is multiplied by an exponent. Now, give you a little bit more. It's an equation C2 equals C1, cost of the old or existing facility. A2 is the new capacity. A1 is the old capacity. E is the exponent variable, and it's based on historical information. The capacity factor method, this E, the selection and the choosing of E exponent is generally is between 0.5 to 0.85 depending on the type of facilities, and must be analyzed carefully for its applicability to each estimation situation. It is also called 6/10 factor because most of the time the exponent 0.6, if no other information is available, is used. Generally 0.6 is used if you don't have any other component to add on to. So, but all these numbers 0.5 to 0.85 are defined and available in many cost estimating manuals and books available to you, which factor, which exponent number you should use in what facilities and whatnot. So I give you an example here also that the company wants to build a 100,000 barrels per day hydrogen peroxide unit in Philadelphia, which was completed in 2016. And they wanted to know the cost of Philadelphia, in Philadelphia, if they're going to build 100,000 barrels per day hydrogen peroxide unit. So you look around and you found out that in Malaysia, there was the same similar type hydrogen peroxide unit was built, which is about 150,000 barrels per day, with a final cost of $50 million in 2014. Now, how are you going to utilize this information to calculate the cost of Philadelphia plant on a order of magnitude estimate, which is plus minus 40%. So based on the experience, the capacity factor of 0.75, people looked into it, different books and manuals, and realized that 0.75 is appropriate to use it. The construction in Philadelphia is expected to cost 0.25 or 1.25 times the construction cost in Malaysia, because it's more expensive to construct in Philadelphia than Malaysia, which is based on the location adjustment factor. Also, there is because in Malaysia, the plant was built in 2014 and you are going to build in 2016. So there are 2014, 15, and 16, 2 years of escalation factor, and they use about 3%. So they multiply 1.06 multiplier and compute the cost for plant in Philadelphia, applying the similar, the capacity factor equation, which if you apply here, like $66, was the cost, and you multiply with all this 100 by 150 and 0.75, and you came up about $49 million. Now, this capacity factor index and the location factor, gentlemen, I'm seeing some videos have been opened. QS consultant, please close your video, because and some people have used their mic. It's a lot of disturbance coming up. Gentlemen, in order to find out these factors, I looked at it, various books and manuals. There is Compass, which is very popular in estimation. RS means estimating, different estimating manuals, and they provide all this information, the location factor versus, and also the productivity factor. They also provide you labor productivity factor, commodity indices, and also provide you not only monthly hello QS, I request QS consultant will please close your I'm not yeah, thank you. Gentlemen, there are 4 companies which are totally dedicated to develop the indices, and these are specialized in maintaining cost indices, like chemical engineering, Mark and Swift, and there are 2 other companies which are totally devoted in collecting the data all around the globe regarding commodities, regarding labor, regarding the cost, currency, inflation, and they come up with various indices. And if you have to use them, please go online and you can find all those information. There are many software which are available in the market, Timberline, Compass, Icarus, uh, and other software which provide this information. You just have to plug in the data and you can come up with your cost estimate. I use Icarus before, and Timberline. I really impressed with especially Icarus. It's very powerful tool for cost estimation. It has already the drawings built into the system, PNIDs, PFDs, and others, infrastructure drawings, and you just have to plug in your numbers, the system crunch the numbers and give it to you your total install cost on a project. Ratio or factor method. This is another method to utilize in process industries. And in 1947, Hans Lang first published an article in Chemical Engineering introducing the concept of using the total cost of equipment to factor the total estimated cost of a plant. Now, these factors are also available on cost estimating manuals. Like if you know the total equipment cost of a plant, because it is a big chunk of generally about 50 to 60, 65% is the material and equipment cost in any plant. So he says that if you know that, you can calculate the cost of your new plant using the data of a previous plant by using the equipment factor. And Lang has come up with different factors based on his experience and iterative method he utilized, like solid process plants can be anything. He says if you know the equipment cost of total, you use 3.10. If you have a fluid process plant, you use 4.74 estimate. Similarly, and you can see how simple the calculation becomes. And people use it ratio or factor method depending on the data availability with them and how confident they feel about using this ratio or factor method. Budget estimates, as we know, they apply to the owner's budget and not to the budget as a project controlled document. Because when you say I have a budgetary estimate, you don't start your project control because you have not come to the execution phase yet. So these are the variation. Accuracy range is plus 30%, minus 10%. And they basically, the purpose is to establishing a probable cost of a budget, general feasibility of a project, and they provide you evaluating cost, consequences of proposed modification, because then you start measuring from that using your budgetary estimate as a yardstick, and any proposed modification will add on to the cost. It is also established to control during design phase and any screening a number of alternative in a project. Budget estimates, there are timing and is very important because they are developed during the planning development phase of the project. At the time, your design is not very complete and you have little information, and the basic criteria such as units of output or area are known. So you come up with this number. However, in my experience, I have noted that sometimes these budgetary estimates fail when they come to more refined stage and they realize it, oh, our numbers is much more lower than what come out or is much higher than what was anticipated because of the lack of definitive project scope. Many people give the numbers from the year. You know, they say, "Oh, let's put this number. Oh, let's. I think it costs this much," which is not the case because any estimate which you do, the numbers have to be substantiated. You have to tell where the number comes from and why you're using this number in your estimate. If that number cannot speak itself, then it is not a number in cost estimate. I generally do not accept such kind of a off the cuff cost because, you, because, 'Because you are making someone, giving a wrong cost and somebody else doing the economic viability based on those numbers. So it fails. And this is also one of the reasons that management also do not hire enough estimators or not given enough time for estimate preparation. I also experienced that many project managers and estimators are not qualified and they just wanted to finish the estimate in a nick of time without giving a due understanding what it takes to estimate, because an estimate, though it's not a single point number, but it provides the management to make their decisions. There is this deterministic estimating methodology, which is called detailed estimating, in which each component comprising a project scope definition is qualitatively and quantitatively surveyed and priced using the most realistic unit prices available. In this methodology, you have to have at least drawings. Some preliminary drawings are completed, your scope definition is clear, and you know exactly what you're going to go, and it is to the level where you can estimate based on the quantities. During the preparation of detailed estimate, you have to have a project, basis and schedule, that what is the timeline, because this timeline is very important in order to resource your each activity. You have to compute your direct fuel cost, your indirect fuel cost, your home office cost. You have to know your sales tax, your duty estimates, your escalation estimates, and the fee for contractors. And you need to know what are the risk analysis and contingency determination during this phase or this methodology if you are using it. And you also review and validate by third party to that your estimates are good enough, because this is the detailed estimate, which is the number everybody is looking for. Estimating process is basically is a scope. You need to know the complete scope of work. In early phases, yes, you may not be knowing, you have to build a house, and you have to build a 4-bedroom house, but you don't know that how many, if you know how many bathrooms, what kind of a fixtures and fittings you're going to utilize it. So the cost definitely will vary, but generally you estimate agreed upon scope, agreed by all stakeholders. It's not that you start working on a scope of work and all of a sudden you receive the phone call, they say, no man, change this, this is not required, we want it this way, we want it that way. Then your efforts which you have spent has no bearing. You have to rework the estimates. So what happens, you have to have an agreed upon scope of work so you can commence your estimate. And if it is not agreed upon and so it is out of scope, you can say it. In contracting and procurement practices, includes all that an enterprise is contractually committed to perform or deliver. Now you have to understand two things here, gentlemen and lady, that honor scope could be different than the contractor scope. A contractor which was chosen to perform certain activities on a project, so maybe an owner may have 2 or 3 or 4 contractors working on a project. So he may allocate a certain scope of work to one contractor, another one to another contractor, and so on and so forth. So for contractors' perspective, when they do estimate, they do only their portion of scope of work, and they do not really go into more details of the overall project cost. Similarly, the materials purchasing and materials, one has to know from where they are purchasing the materials locally or internationally, and what it takes to get the material on site. The takeoff is very important, and quantification, that is a measurement and listing of quantities of materials from drawings in order to support the estimate costing process and or to support the material procurement process. As you know, the costing is different than pricing. Costing is the actual cost to of an activity, but pricing is the cost what a business consider the business and other interest, profit, marketing, which in addition to inherent cost, the original cost of the uh, that activity or of a project, people add on certain numbers to it. Project risk, you have to assess the risk assessment is a separate techniques, and you say what are the risk involved on my project and what are the mitigation methodologies I'm using it, and what would be the cost to mitigate that risk. So you basically include the allowances, a certain portion of those risks into your project cost estimating while you're doing it estimates which are known to you but undefined, that will it happen or will it not happen. So you always add certain allowances for project risk. Contingency is one of the important terminology which is being used in cost estimation, which is known unknown. Now, what is known and unknown? It means that the contingency can be used for labor productivity, variances. You can use. There are omissions and errors in your estimate. You can see the unknown geographical condition, like where you're going to go and excavate. You find out there are rocks which you didn't know because you did not do the soil investigation before you start the project. When your contractor start digging in, you realize that there's a lot of rocks. So you didn't know, it was expected but not known at that time, but you allocate certain funds for it. Similarly, I have seen that many infrastructure where they start building the foundation work, there's a lot of water table and they have to do dewatering. Dewatering is not a cheap activity, it's expensive. So you have to cater the cost of the dewatering, just plug it in there, some numbers, estimate accuracy, including omission and minor errors. You also look at it if you're bringing material from abroad, would your freight would be the same or would be changed. If you anticipate that your project will slip for one reason or another, though you make efforts as a part of a project team and project manager, if you are, to manage your project within your budget and the schedule, but during the development phase, you include certain costs for delays, schedule slippage, because your labor will stay on the project and your cost will increase somehow. There are many other escalation is also there because the rates can be varied if it is delayed. Uh, Gentlemen and ladies, you have to write your basis of estimates. Every number which you write it down in estimates, you write your assumptions and what is the basis, what escalation factor you utilize it. And when you
are going to execute the project after 1 year, what would be the forward escalation, what would be the labor productivity you are using on your current estimates, and what are the adjustment factors you built into your estimates. Similarly, the currencies, you know what is the dollar value today, and if you purchase a material after 1 year from somewhere abroad, what would be the fluctuation in the currency rate. And that will also dictate and increase your budget. So you plug in those numbers as a contingency, and you also give all the explanation of major variation from your previous estimates. The documentation of an estimates are very important. You have to prepare a full document. What is the purpose? What is the scope you estimate for, assumptions and exclusions, and time and cost association linked with your schedule, and the cost is spread out in the cycle of the project, contingency development, any significant findings, and the people who review your estimates to give them credit. In conclusion, I'm about 2 more slides to complete, and I know it's about a time, an hour, but initially we lost 4 or 5 minutes. So just bear with me for a few more minutes, gentlemen and ladies. As you know, as a potential projects are considered as investment opportunities, management required various estimates to support the decision points. At each phase of the project, level of engineering and technical information available to prepare the estimate will change, because as you grow in your project phase, you get more information about your project. And accordingly, the techniques and methods will also vary. So using conceptual approach versus a detailed approach, you will depend upon many factors. The end use of estimates, amount of time and money available to prepare the estimates, the estimating tools and historical information is available. Order of magnitude estimates require significant efforts on data gathering, whereas huge efforts are required in preparation of detailed estimates. As we talked about, and perhaps you already is familiar with that, an estimate is a prediction of a final cost of a proposed project with a given scope of work. So by its nature, an estimate associated with uncertainty and is also associated with the probability of overrunning and underrunning the predicted cost. So an estimate should not be regarded as a single point number or cost. It should consider it as actually reflects a range of potential cost outcomes within the range. Also, estimates are used to establish project budgets and provide information to support scheduling, cost monitoring, and progress measurement of a project during execution. So the use of structured estimating techniques, high quality engineering deliverables, reliable historical data and pricing information, combined with estimating skills and experience, will assure the best possible estimates are prepared. So gentlemen, this is what, if you come across and you have to go through in the development of a stage, and your management asks you to provide a good cost engineer to me, comes and says, sir, we have estimate that this project will cost approximately $285,000. We are 80% confident that the final cost will be between $250,000 and $320,000. The estimate is based on this. These are the words which management like to hear, the confidence level which a cost estimator provide or cost engineer to the management so they can utilize the number crank during the estimating phase, whatever the process and methodology has been used, and probability analysis has been done, risk analysis, contingencies taken into consideration, all the indices and the basis of estimates which are very distinct and clearly identify that why this estimator is using this number and where this number comes from, then that is the level of confidence which management like to see so they can make their final decisions. Now here I conclude basically my presentation, gentlemen. We are available. We have our website acepakistan.pk. We are also on Facebook and LinkedIn. My name is Farrukh Siddiqui, and my email address, if you wanted to write it down, is fine with me. And you can send me your queries and whenever you like to. If you need to know more about the cost estimating or any other subject related to project management, I would be more than happy to provide you and writing individually response. So I thank you very much for your time and effort to join me in this presentation. And thank you very much again. God bless you.